What up, y'all? Cigar Noob back again. And I've been 2 weeks into my pipe smoking journey, and I love it. It is amazing, and I've learned a lot. There are a lot of beginner tips from a beginner that I've learned in the past 2 weeks, going to tobacconists, reading books, and, hitting YouTube like crazy. So I'm going to share some really good knowledge with you right now, so stay tuned. So just to start this off on the right foot, I'm already packed up with some previously Dunhill, but Peterson's early morning pipe. I've never tried this before, but a lot of people talk about it. And this will lead me into tip number 1. If you're a new pipe smoker, you can't store your tobacco in these tins. If you keep it in here, it's going to dry out. So if you're going to smoke this in a week, that's fine. But if you're going to buy, if you're starting off like me, I've bought like 5 or 6 tins. So now I'm like buying them, opening them, but then I put them into little mason jars and I label the top. And that way these can stay in these mason jars with an airtight seal for years. And this is just, any regular mason jar, but this will be fine in here. It will not be fine in these little tins. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, now that we're from the tobacco moving to the pipe, is that you can pack your tobacco tighter than most people tell you. Tongue bite is going to be a thing that you're going to have to worry about and learn about yourself. I have some tips for that. And let's stop numbering the tips, actually, just right off the rip. But another tip, I would pack it tighter than, like everybody says, oh, pack it light, but, you can pack it really tight and still have a really decent light draw. If you're coming from something like cigars, it's never going to pull or draw as hard as a cigar. It's a pretty easy draw on a pipe. So you can pack it a little tighter than, everybody's like, pack it really lightly, don't pack it too tight. If you pack it lighter or tighter, it'll be easier for you to keep it lit. Honestly, I can smoke a whole bowl and maybe only light it 2 or 3 times, depending on how much I'm talking, maybe even less. You do have to worry about your pipe burning too hot, and I still do smoke a little too hot. That's something that I'm gonna learn over the years. I have been listening to an audiobook by a pipe enthusiast and collector, and I'm gonna bring that up now, In Search of Pipe Dreams, by Rick Newcomb. I just want to make sure that I got his name correctly. And he'll say in there even, it'll take you years to learn how to properly smoke a pipe, but these are just beginner tips from a beginner, so pack it a little tighter than everybody says. And I'm going to kind of walk through this as I'm going. I want to get this sucker lit because I've never tried the early morning pipe, and everybody says that it's damn good. And it smells nice and good, so I'm going to get my charring light going. Whoa, getting some really strong flavors right off the rip there. Initially, when I first burnt it, I was like, this is the first pipe tobacco that has tasted this close to a cigarette in a good way. And then I got a really rich flavor. Almost like a caramel. That's really quite tasty. So that was my charring light. That's just your first light that you do, where you go around the top and you light as much of the pipe as you can. And honestly, I've been doing about 2 charring lights and taking it really slow. And I get a really nice result that way. Oh, it's like milk chocolate smooth on the way out. Early morning pipe. I got the Peterson / Dunhill standard mixture this week, and that is probably my favorite that I've smoked so far, and I was really excited because I went into that one with very high hopes that it's going to be this is going to be my new standard go-to tobacco, so. All right, so now I'm ready to actually light this up. But another tip, if you're not going to start off with a corn cob, I didn't. Everybody recommends that you start off with a cob pipe. I didn't do that because I heard that you taste a bit of the corn cob, which I honestly didn't want. And having something that I could like start off with and have my first pipe, I wanted it to be a briar pipe. So I would recommend, don't go online. My first pipe that I had in my first video, where you see me pack and smoke my first pipe, I got that online. I really didn't like it, and the diameter of the chamber was really small. And when I went to my local tobacconist, he was like, "Ooh, that's going to be harder to keep burnt because it has a small chamber." And I went and bought an estate pipe for $50 at Barclay Rex in New York City. And this has a much bigger chamber, and it is a much more enjoyable smoke. And it's a much, it's just easier to keep lit. And it's cool having an estate pipe. I cleaned it out, pretty thoroughly. But I would definitely recommend, as a good just starting bar, if you don't want to start off with a cob, because if you do want to start off with a cob to see if you would like even smoking a pipe, they're super cheap, way cheaper than $50. You can get it for like $10, like 40, maybe even 30. You can get a cheap estate pipe if you go to your local tobacconist, which I would definitely recommend because I super have enjoyed it. Also, if you do that, go to your tobacconist and get these little plastic bits. That way, it's a little rubber bit. That way you're not biting on the plastic. It's really easy to keep this in your mouth and you're not messing up the stem of your pipe. Now let's go for that light. Now, unlike cigars, pipe smoking is not something that goes, in my experience, it's more enjoyable to me if I'm not talking. Where if it's like, if I'm having a cigar, I like to like chat it up. Cigar's good with a bud, but I find if I'm smoking by myself, I like a pipe more. And it's better if you're not talking because you have to work at keeping this at the right stoke, the right flame, and you have to like the right burning level, I guess. I don't know how to word it, but if you could see what I was doing there. Look up the breath method. It's a good method. There's a ton of videos about it. This is not going to be a video about that. But look it up. It's good for beginner smokers. It'll help you set a slower cadence because you don't want to smoke too fast because it'll give you a hot pipe. It could give you tongue bite, which you're going to have to Google. It's essentially whenever you get chemical tongue bite from smoking an aromatic, which I don't smoke any aromatics and I haven't tried that yet. And aromatics will give you tongue bite more. So if you're worried about it, don't start there. Especially if you're like a cigar smoker, you'll be fine with something that's not an aromatic. So that's like a chemical tongue bite. Or if you're just smoking too frequently, like pulling it in too much too fast, it'll burn your tongue. And some tobaccos burn hotter than others. Like an English, a Burley, a Cavendish, they burn colder. A Virginia or an aromatic. Actually, I'm not sure about an aromatic. That might be chemical, but I think they do burn hotter. But a Virginia, because of sugar, definitely burns hotter, and I got a bit of tongue bite on that. So be careful when you're going into that. But I do have a tip. And I'm going to go out a couple times because I'm talking so much. But a tip to avoid tongue bite in the beginning, you'll see you do move, or you should puff over here a bit, puff over here a bit. If you puff in the center, just to keep the flavor moving around your mouth, what I try to avoid is the smoke is going to shoot out this way, just straight back, shoop. And I put it to the side in my mouth so that it avoids my tongue completely, and I minimize the amount of times that I pull from the front. So I'm pulling from the side so that the smoke isn't hitting my tongue, the most sensitive part of your mouth. And that's, I'm smoking a lower burning tobacco, but also I'm doing that to avoid getting tongue bite because It's no joke. Having a burnt tongue really sucks, and once you get it once, you'll do everything that you can to try not to get it again. Look at Peterson P-lip pipes where the smoke will blow out the top of the stem instead of straight out. But you'll see it's a very, very big deal. Another thing that you can do to minimize tongue bite is to have a cold bevy with you while you do it. I mix half and half apple juice and water, and honestly, it goes really good with pipe tobacco. I tried a cream soda, and that was the worst mix of worst pairing. I have a coffee too. It's gonna stay hot in the Stanley forever, but you got to be careful with coffee. While you can always pair like a coffee and a cigar, I would really recommend smoking your first 3 or 4 pipes without, or bowls as they say, without coffee, because if you're already tongue bite is going to be a thing. You have to keep your tongue very cool. So drinking coffee is not going to help keep your tongue cool. So keep a cold beverage there. If you want to try a coffee, make sure that it's not piping hot, because you're going to want something that'll cool your tongue down in between puffs. So let's light back up. Woo-hoo-hoo. That is some damn delicious tobacco there. This definitely is not a review, but I'm getting some really rich, smooth flavoring off of this. Honestly, it feels like it's a very smooth retrohale, like milk chocolatey. That is a very good tobacco. So that's it as far as beginner tips goes for this video. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments. I'm Cigar Noob, smoking my estate pipe that I love, little briarwood pipe. I am going to get a new pipe for Christmas. I've been looking at a ton. I think it's going to be a Peterson. But yeah, I'm pretty into the pipe now. The pipe is treating me right, and it's really affordable. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram also at Cigar Noob. The noob has zeros instead of O's. In case you can't find me, it's linked to my YouTube profile. And hit me up on Twitter at the Flannel Fox. Also, if you're a gamer, peep my Flannel Fox YouTube channel. So happy smoking, and have a great weekend. Have a great weekend.